What's up, folks? Welcome to Woodworking Against the Grain. Hey, ho, ho, ho. It's almost Christmas. Look here, we're going to make some Christmas candy today. We're going to make some red velvet truffles. Make these up, take them to a Christmas party. They'll invite you back next year if you'll bring some more of them, I guarantee you. Red velvet truffles. We're going to start out by making a recipe of your basic red velvet cake. So let's go ahead and knock that out. In the mixer, we got 3/4 of a cup of sugar and a half a stick of butter. We're going to cream that up good while we do our dry stuff here. We got 1.25 cups all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cocoa powder. All that's our dry stuff goes in the sifter. We're going to sift this 2 or 3 times to get this cocoa distributed through there. Also to get any lumps out of the flour. While our butter and sugar is getting happy over there in the mixer. We're going to just sift this back and forth a couple of times till we kind of get our cocoa all throughout this dry mixture here. Y'all got your Christmas list made? You ain't got but about 2 weeks to go. Need to get all your shopping done, get your presents wrapped, and by all means, don't forget about what you're going to get me. I've been pretty good this year. I ought to get something. We got our dry stuff mixed up here. Now, right here, you got to be careful with this. This right here is 1 fluid ounce of red food coloring. You don't want to spill that. You spill that, it's pretty much over with. Whatever you get that on is going to be red for the rest of its life. Now, we've got our sugar and our butter cream in here. I've got to get a rubber spatula. I always forget that for some reason. So we can scrape down this bowl. We're going to scrape this down 1 time, just to make sure nothing's stuck to the bottom good there. This is a small recipe because we're only making half a cake. We're going to make these truffles up. Once we get this cake out of the oven, it's just going to be 1 layer. We're going to crumble it up, add some cream cheese to it, roll it into little, about golf ball sized balls, and we're going to dip it in some good quality white chocolate. Then we're going to put them on wax paper, let them cool off. They're going to be really fit to eat. Now, I got this butter and sugar cream pretty good right here. I'm going to add 1 whole egg to that and let that stir around a little bit while I get a big spoon. Once that egg gets going in there, right here I've got 1/2 cup of good buttermilk. I've got 1 teaspoon of white vinegar. We're going to add that in there right now. We're going to slow this process down just a little bit. We're going to alternately add our dry ingredients, our flour and our cocoa here. 2 or 3 big spoonfuls of that. Then we'll pour a little bit of this buttermilk in there. We're going to make some other Christmas candy in a few days, too. We're going to make some fancy fudge. We're going to make some homemade Butterfingers. All the kind of stuff you need this time of year to make you really fat and to see how prone you are to diabetes. Add a little bit more buttermilk there. I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of this flour now. The rest of this good buttermilk here. I'm going to let that go just for a little bit. Don't overbeat your flour. Got some flour stuck to the sides of the bowl here I don't want, so I'm going to give that a good scraping. I don't want to leave anything out. Give everything an opportunity to be part of this cake. Scrape off our beater just a little bit there. Now, I'm going to turn this on real slow. While I add this red food coloring in there, just real careful like. When you get that poured in there, you want to go straight to the sink with that little bowl right there. Now just let this spin long enough for all of it to get good and red. And I've got me one cake pan here with a piece of parchment paper in the bottom of it. Keep it from sticking. We're going to put this in a 350-degree oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. We're going to take it out, let it cool a little bit, whoop some cream cheese up in it, and finish this puppy off. Don't go away. All right, look here, we're back. We got our red velvet cake out of the oven. It's cooling on this rack right here. It's pretty and red. And while it's cooling off a little bit, we're going to whip up some cream cheese, buttercream icing to mix with that. I got an 8-ounce package of cream cheese in the mixer and a half a stick of butter. A teaspoon of vanilla flavor, and we're going to let that cream up good. Get my handy dandy spatula here that I always forget. Once that cream's up pretty good right there, we're going to slow the mixer down. And we're going to gently add 3 cups of powdered sugar to this and make us a little batch of buttercream icing. It's not enough to ice the whole cake, but it's going to be enough. What we're going to do is crumble this up when it gets cool into a bowl, and we're going to squeeze this icing into this cake with our hands. Don't get your hands dirty a little bit, but it'll be all right. It'll wash off. Then we're going to move over here to the stove. We're going to melt some good quality white chocolate, not almond bark, good quality white chocolate. We're going to roll these into balls and dip them in that white chocolate, and then we're going to eat a few of them. So if you don't want to run off, stay with us. We're going. Now you got to roll. You got to give yourself plenty of time to make these. You don't want to run home after work and try to make these for a party you're going to that night, because once we make these cake balls, or make this cake into round balls, it's going to need to sit in the refrigerator for 3 or 4 hours before we dip them in chocolate. So you want to do this, you know, maybe a day ahead of time, or on the weekend or whatever, when you got plenty of time, you're not too rushed to do it. All right, here comes the fun part of this. We're going to crumble this cake up into this bowl, and then we're going to squeeze this cream cheese, buttercream icing all up in it there. And then we're going to roll it into balls and put it on some wax paper and let it chill for a while. This is the fun part. Now, you don't want to crumble this up too much. You just want to make small crumbles, okay? You're not trying to make dough out of it, but you don't want it in big pieces either. You want it just kind of a fine crumble here. And you can start out with bigger pieces, because the more we work this buttercream icing in here, the smaller the pieces will get. You know, this is a lot of fun to play in. Do this with your kids if you got small kids, or do it with whoever you want to. If there's anybody around, I'm home alone, so it's just me talking to a camera. So, but if you can make a family deal out of this, or got a good friend you want to do it with, or whatever, somebody you don't mind getting your hands dirty with. Don't put all this frosting in there at one time, because you can't take it out. Better just to put you a couple of big dollops in there, in case you don't need all of it. You can always go back and add some more if you need to. You can't hardly get it out of there once you put too much in. So then once you get that in there, you can start probably by stirring it with a spoon. But the only way to get this really like you want it is to get in there with your hands and just kind of squeeze that cake into that icing. Because what you want this to end up being is gummy enough to make golf ball size balls that we're going to dip in that white chocolate that we've got melting over there behind us. We'll move over there when we get ready to talk about that. You want to be able to squeeze that into a ball and it stay pretty good. See, we're getting there. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more of this. If you don't want to make a mess, don't make this cake. Don't make these truffles because they're messy. If you have a mess phobia, steer clear of this kind of stuff. But if you don't mind getting your hands in there and getting dirty, come on in and join the fun. This one cake's going to make probably, I'm going to guess, about 15 or 20 truffles. So if you're making them for a party or something and you need a lot more than that, just go ahead and use the whole red velvet cake recipe instead of cutting it in half. I didn't want that many of these today, but if you need that many, then you just need to go ahead and make the whole recipe, or if you need enough of them for a log roll, then you need to go ahead and double the recipe, I guess. See how that turns into kind of a dough now? You can roll that whatever size you want. That's what we're looking for right there. All right, we're going to roll these out now. I'm going to try to make them about the size of a golf ball. Put them on some wax paper here. If we see that that's going to be a little bit too big, we can come back, and I think that is a little bit too big. Let's go down maybe about a ping pong ball size. I think that'll be a little easier. Be about more like bite size maybe. Anyway, just roll these out, whatever size you want to roll them out. Get them good and round. Put them on a cookie sheet. Put them in the refrigerator for 3 or 4 hours, or put them in the freezer for 30, 45 minutes. Don't dip them in chocolate, though, while they're frozen, because as they thaw out, they'll bust the chocolate shell, and they won't look good. So if you freeze them, thaw them out before you dip them. But they do need to be chilled, but not frozen before you dip them. We'll get all these rolled up, chilled, and then we'll come back and we'll dip them in chocolate, and then we'll taste of them. Don't run off now. All right, folks, look here. Our truffles turned out pretty good. I hope you can see that right there. You can see them. I'm going to pick this up where you can see a little bit down in this. Right here, they turned out dipped pretty well. I left a little red on top just to keep it festive. Give yourself plenty of time if you want to make these, because it takes a while to dip them all. I stuck a toothpick in them. You don't have to do that, but it kind of gives you a little bit of a handle there. Let's just see how these things turned out. They're best with a good hot cup of coffee. So let's just see what we got. Very tasty. There's a lot of Christmas in that right there. Remember, He knows if you've been bad or good. Thanks for watching. Have a very Merry Christmas, and come back to see us.